is Gabrielle Bosche, and today I decided to mix it up a little bit. As you can see, I'm in beautiful California right now, and it is too beautiful to not sit outside. So rather than sitting in an office or behind walls or on glass, I decided to take you guys out with me and hang out with me on the golf course as we talk about how to engage the next generation. So very excited as you guys come on in. We've got a few minutes as everyone's starting to log on and get comfortable. A couple of housekeeping items as you guys jump on. First and foremost, make sure that you've got the next 45 minutes or so blocked off. Tell your coworkers, tell your boss, tell your kids, tell your spouse, leave me alone. I've got to get in on this training. I really appreciate when people come and they're attentive. I provide live training on topics that are relevant to leaders, whether it's with marketing or recruiting or retention and industry related trainings as well. And I do it free of charge because I believe in investing in you. And so I hope that you meet me halfway and make that same investment in yourself and turn off everything else. Also, too, make sure that you log out of any social media, any sort of emails. If you're participating in our conversation today, you're not going to get the full impact of what it is that I have to share with you. I can't tell you how many times I've done a webinar and I'm doing multiple things at the same time, and then I'll go back and I'll listen to it later at the replay. I'm like, I don't even remember them saying any of that because my mind was somewhere else. So please be present and please be participative. Also, too, if you throughout, feel free to ask them in the chat bar, which is on the side. But let's warm that chat bar up right now. I've got a few people who have jumped on. Jim, I know, just jumped on. He's one of our trainers down in Atlanta. We love you, Jim. Who else is here? Let me know where you are watching from. Typically, I'm in my studio in Washington, D.C., but today I'm in beautiful, sunny California. Not too far from the fires, actually, in Northern California. So we continue to pray for those people out there and the challenges that we're dealing with here in California. But let me know where you are. Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you guys can see me. There's also a dog walking around out here. So if there's a dog barking, just letting you know that is what is going on. But I am very excited to be spending the next 45 minutes to an hour with you to really get into the science of millennial motivation and how that translates into marketing and recruiting the next generation. But before we get into that, I want to provide some perspective. So I got into the millennial space because I really saw that there was a very large hole. There were plenty of people who were talking about millennials, but there weren't very many people who had the research to back it up and really the millennial eyesight or insight that I was able to provide. So it's been about 11 years, which makes me feel really old when I say that out loud. But I have really thrown myself into what I've discovered is not only my passion, but really a calling in helping leaders across industries, across countries, and across demographics to really help them understand who the next generation is and what makes them tick. So today on this live training, we're going to be talking about how do you market to the next generation and how do you recruit the next generation, because there's a very key similarity between the two. So I'm very excited to share with you some of the research that we've found, the research that we've partnered with, and some new upcoming research that we are going to be delivering in the next 12 months. So very exciting stuff. And so let's get into it. So one of the big questions I usually get asked is, are millennials really that different? Are they really that different from other generations in the past? And the answer is, of course they are. Of course, this next generation, there are 83 million millennials. Millennials are born between 1981 and the year 2000. And plenty of people will give opinions about what year they were born or kind of make up their own generational statistics, but that's what we use because that's what the US Census Bureau uses. So this massive generation is coming in, and the mere size of it is changing the way that we do everything. Everywhere from, how we educate people, how we take classes, how we get jobs, how we find our mates and our partners. this generation is really creating a different dynamic. And so really when it comes down to it, there are three things that millennials have really helped differentiate themselves by. The first is really technology, which isn't that surprising. This generation is a generation that uses tech, as we sit here on a webinar, to solve problems. It's really their go-to. Whenever there's a problem, we're constantly thinking there's got to be an app for that, because there probably is. The second thing that makes millennials very unique is that millennials are a global generation. We have this idea that what we do we want to have this global impact, this global effect. And that's something that we tie into every job that we have. Oftentimes this generation gets really criticized for wanting to be fulfilled on their first day on the job, where, people have come out and said, oh, millennials, they just want to be fulfilled constantly. And my answer is, of course, don't you? I think the big difference is that millennials are willing to quit if they're not feeling fulfilled, whereas other generations maybe had to work through it or felt like being fulfilled is something that you earn rather than something that you're just necessarily handed. So there's a really powerful way for you to integrate that component. The third thing that makes millennials unique is that we have this need for speed, this fast-paced environment. And we see that with everything, from how millennials get jobs to how we become educated, how we meet people, what we do in our spare time. So those three things have really changed the way that millennials interact with companies, whether they're consumers or whether they're employees. So once you get those three things down, that millennials are a global generation, that we expect everything, and a generation addicted to technology. Once you get that in your head, you'll then be able to deliver campaigns, again, whether you're recruiting or you're marketing to millennials, you'll really be able to better interact with this next generation. So why is it that marketing/recruiting millennials is going to be a different ball of wax? So the kind of era of recruiting and marketing has kind of come through their own little kind of phases, so to speak. My personal favorite was kind of that Mad Men type era where, you could create this really beautifully done advertisement and it said, 6 out of 7 doctors or 6 out of 7 moms use such and such. And it was this glamorization of this product that I want to be like that person if I use this product. And that's basic human motivation, is this likeness factor. We continue to see that today with many millennials on the marketing side, where we see this micro celebrity status still ringing true. We're always going to have the Olympians on the Wheaties boxes. We're always going to be having that celebrity approved lipstick. But it was interesting. I was actually meeting with a comb, and he was explaining to me how they makeup mogul company, and they're moving away from using celebrities to be the face of their product, and now they're moving towards micro celebrities. So your favorite blogger or your favorite influencer or a civil rights advocate. But the faces of celebrities are changing. It's no longer just the people in the movies or the people in the magazines. That is starting to change to reflect a purpose-driven and a more consumer-oriented type of individual. So when that comes to, if you're, again, marketing or recruiting, who's the face of your brand? It used to be that you wanted, say, the Capital Ones who have the Jennifer Garners, or, all of those big companies who can afford to have those celebrities actually be their faces. We're actually finding are not necessarily as effective as that kind of micro celebrity. So who's that micro celebrity that you can reach out to be your face? So whether you're looking at recruiting someone, maybe you're in industry that someone isn't really well tapped in the millennial regard. Who can you talk to? Everything from going on YouTube to see who has really large followers, to people who have blogs, to people who are writers or authors. But those people who have followings, tapping into them because they're just as influential. Because I'll tell you, if you go onto some of these bloggers or YouTubers who are also called vloggers, like video blogs, who are doing this content, they're pushing out content for free, so they're getting people to follow them, because that's also the new generation of marketing, is it's all content driven. I'm not going to purchase from you until you invest in me? What can you teach me first before I actually believe you? So there's this give and take when it comes to marketing. No longer is it that expert approved. It's who, like me, likes this product. So you get that draw of the micro celebrity, but maybe, for example, you're an industry millennials aren't really into. You get someone with a strong following to do some shortened videos just to talk about your product or to review multiple products that are like yours, and then kind of come into an analysis of what works and what doesn't. Honest feedback is the most important type of recruitment and marketing. So I will trust your brand if you say, hey, here are the pros and the cons. So let's do an example of review-based marketing, say with recruiting someone to come work for you. So that could look like bringing in a panel of some of your current employees and having them talk about their experience working for your company. And you could do a short video, you could do a webinar, kind of like what I'm doing. You could do it in person at an event. But doing some sort of review, hey, this is what it's like to work at ABC company. Here's what I thought before I started working here. Here's what it's actually like. Here's where it's exceeded my expectations. Here's some things that I wish that I could change. That simple, straightforward, authentic, and honest approach will certainly be more effective recruiting the next generation than if you're coming in and saying, this is the best company to work for ever, and you're never going to want to work anywhere else, ever. It's just not the case. I was looking for it. Do you see that? Do you see the bug? I'm fighting off bugs now. If a bug attacks my face, you'll know why. I was looking for a car maybe 4 months ago. And because I was a millennial, I didn't have a car for a long time, of course. But I went to a car dealership, and I started talking to the salesman. And I've worked in the car industry for many years. I know how it works. So I'm talking to him. I'm saying, hey, what do you like about this car? And he's telling me all these great things. And then I said, what do you really wish that the manufacturer would change? Like, what am I going to be getting upset at in the next year or two? He goes, oh no, nothing's wrong with this car. Everyone loves it. Everyone has great reviews. And I sat there, and after he explained how this car was perfect, I shook his hand and I walked away. And they called me later and they said, well, why did you walk away? And I said, well, your salesman wasn't being honest with me. And I knew this particular vehicle, that I was going to have brake issues. I was probably going to have to replace the brakes in 10,000 miles. And if he would have said, the biggest complaint we get back from people is that they have to change the brakes, and that's going to cost about, $600. If he just would have said that rather than hiding the ball and pretending like everything was fine, because he broke trust with me as the consumer. It's like when you go to a restaurant and you say, hey, I would like to have, this pasta dish. And the waiter's like, actually, that's probably not the best thing on the menu. If you like pasta, why don't you try this one? Instantly, I'm like, this guy gets me. He's service oriented. He knows what I want. He's giving me suggestions, and he's willing to say that's bad and this is good. So how in your marketing to this next generation or your recruitment can you take an honest approach? I think Domino's is doing a really excellent job of this right now. If you guys have seen some of their advertising, it was about 2 years ago, they started doing the We Suck campaigns. I don't know if you remember this or not. It was hilarious, where they came out and they said, we've seen the reviews and we know that we suck. Our pizza tastes like cardboard. It comes off and it's greasy. No one likes us, this, that, and the other thing. And they said, and we're listening. Completely changed the way that they started reaching out to the next generation, particularly millennials, who are their target market. And they were smart enough to realize, if we're going to reach them, we better acknowledge the fact that we need help. Say, hey, can you help us? And then create a campaign that involves millennials rather than just pushes them away. So consider how you can integrate the next generation into your outreach. So one of the big things I usually get asked is, okay, Gabrielle, we need to sit in this room and we all need to think about how we're going to reach millennials, right? And we're going to come up with this amazing approach, and then we're going to put it out there and it's going to work. Probably not. Gone are the days of the build it and we will come kind of culture, where I'm going to create this product and then people will come after it. This is the build it with us and we'll make it bigger with you. This generation wants to build things with people. whenever I share on marketing, and we do marketing presentations at conferences and to groups, and we have marketing coaching groups that we actually bring in companies and we coach them as a group together as a cohort to develop marketing strategies with their marketing teams. And I always share one of my favorite statistics, and it's over 65%. And 65% of millennials say that they actually wanted to develop a product with a company rather than have the company develop the product apart from the millennials. So consider whether you're recruiting or, again, you're looking to market to this next generation, how you can integrate millennials within your particular recruitment campaign. Bring them in with you. Do focus groups. Focus groups are such a powerful way for you to be able to reach the next generation, because goodness knows they have opinions. So do a 5-point focus group where you ask them either via virtual survey or in person what they think about this experience. If you're looking to recruit millennials as your employees, bring in a focus group of recently hired people and say, what did you like about this process? What do you wish that we would have said better? How's our onboarding process? How do you think that we should have presented the company in a light that would have been more effective or more attractive to you when you were looking at companies? Because here's the thing, when it comes to recruiting millennials as employees, just because you send someone an offer letter doesn't mean it's a done deal. I'm sure many of you in the hiring world have probably figured this out, where millennials are saying, oh, great, thanks for that offer letter. I'm going to go around to some other people and see what they're willing to offer me as well. And it's not that millennials are shady. It's why wouldn't they keep their options open? Why wouldn't they shop themselves around? They're brilliant at personal brand management and personal marketing. So why wouldn't they consider themselves to be more competitive if they now have an offer letter from you? So don't be offended. It's like they used to say, don't hate the players, hate the game, but if you want to win the game, like the players. So how are you integrating these aspects into what it is that you're currently doing? One of the big things we always hear about is content marketing, which I shared briefly about. So what kind of content are you developing that you're educating millennials? So if you're recruiting them to work for you, how are you educating them about your organization? And I've had people who have wanted to work for me, and they have literally been like, yeah, Millennial Solution is a great organization. It's an international training. And they're reading my website when I'm asking them why they want to work for me. And I'm like, thank you so much. Have a great day. But if you don't give them material about your organization, they are going to read the website. So what kind of information can you send them? Can you do a blog from the founder, a blog from the CEO? Can you do little short videos of people who work there? As you know, people are looking for culture as much as they're looking for an employment opportunity. They're saying, hey, how am I going to fit here? What's the experience? Now, if you guys are taking notes, which of course that you are, writing everything down that I say, write down experience, because that is going to be the key takeaway from this entire conversation. The millennials don't want to be sold something. They don't want to be convinced of something. They want an experience. And through that experience, they're going to trust you, they're going to like you, and they're going to buy from you. They're going to say, oh, look at what kind of experience. It's going to be an A to B experience. So what am I like before I have your product or work for you? And what am I going to be like after? There's this transformation, and your product guarantees a transformation. But how are you presenting that transformation? That's basic marketing, right? Is, this is what my teeth look like before I get, whatever white strips I'm buying, and this is what they look like afterwards. It's that quick, easy, faster than I thought, cheaper than I thought, more fun than I thought, right? There's these aspects of marketing that don't change. But the component about millennials is they want to see the grit factor. They don't necessarily want that, it happened overnight. It's, okay, what was that experience like? What was that process like? So how are you going to be sharing that journey? So examples that we've seen is, if you do have a micro celebrity who's sharing this process, say you are a realtor and you want to start recruiting more millennials. Well, as most of you can probably assume, millennials aren't buying homes at faster paces because either overwhelming student loan debt, there's an education gap where they're not quite sure, there's a convenience gap, there's a time gap. And so because of that, they're feeling intimidated. So meet them where they're at, which is, of course, on social media. Where else would we be? I recently read a survey, though, this morning about how Gen X is spending more time on social media than millennials. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but Gen Z is about 9 hours on social media a day. So if that doesn't scare you, they're basically taking on a full-time job being on social media. So meet them where they're at, go onto social media, and please don't just go on Facebook. And please don't just start an Instagram account because that's where you think millennials are. So I'm going to break down some of the social media platforms, what works and what doesn't, in a very brief approach. So if you guys are ready, I'm going to jump into the social media side of things. So Facebook is the largest platform. If Facebook was a country, it'd be the largest country in the world. It's massive. It's huge. But what's powerful about Facebook is that there's that micro-targeting. There is retargeting after you target someone, which I love. There's that personalization side of things. But what's not great is that there's a millennial exodus, particularly millennial group B. So if you've heard me talk, there's 4 different types of millennials, basically put into 2 different groups. Millennial group A, which is born between 1981 and 1990, and millennial group B, which is 1991 to 2000. Okay, so the younger group is millennial group B, and they are not on Facebook. They don't even have Facebooks. They're on Instagram and they're on Snapchat because it's much more communal based. It's not just everything in the world. They feel like it's more intimate. The older version of millennials, which I am a part of, we grew up with Facebook. Facebook was our invention. So I think that there's more of a personal connection to Facebook for the older generation. Although older millennials may not necessarily be on Facebook just to chat and interact, they are using Facebook for social media. So they're not necessarily using Twitter. They're using Facebook to say what's going on in the world. I'm just going to scroll through. I may not post anything, but it's really how I keep tabs on things. So it's a great place for people to micro-target as well. Facebook is great. I've had so many clients say, oh my gosh, Gabrielle, we are so millennial friendly. Yeah, we have a Facebook page and we're getting people to like our page. Okay, that's great. The problem is that most people just have people like their page and they're vanity likes. It's just you saying how many people like your page and it just feels good. But that's not converting into necessarily ads or it's not necessarily exchanging into any sort of product that is moved. So we're seeing millennials moving away from things like responding on Facebook events. So if you do an event, we're not going to respond on Facebook. If we do say, now there used to be a yes, no, and now there's a maybe tab on the Facebook event side of things, and everyone just hits maybe, which we all know means no. So this generation is saying, okay, I'm going to use Facebook for maybe something a little different. So Facebook ads are very effective to go after millennials. If you're interested in me doing a course on Facebook ads, just message me on the side, like just put in a little sidebar thing. Yes, I'd like to learn more about Facebook ads for recruiting or marketing to millennials, and I'll do a separate webinar on that. But the key thing for Facebook prone individuals is who are you talking to and what are you trying to deliver? And what does that advertisement say? So there's a likeness factor. You want to make sure that, again, it looks someone just like them. Maybe it's your review. Facebook videos are really effective as ads. So there's really so many aspects of the Facebook platform. It's really effective. I'm a huge fan of it. I use Facebook ads all the time. Even to target millennials, there's a really effective way to be able to do that. I just don't have time to go through all of it today. So again, if you're interested, let me know in the message chat bar. The second platform, Instagram. Now, I meet people all the time who are like, oh my gosh, I need an Instagram, just because that's where millennials are, which is true. That's where they are. But if you're a traditional brick and mortar company, so maybe you are a plumber and you're like, I need to be on Instagram, and you're spending all this time and you hired a millennial right out of college to run your Facebook or your Instagram social media. The question is, why are you trying to get those likes? Do you think that that's where the people who are going to use your services are? Because if someone isn't looking for that information, then it's going to seem a little jarring. So if I'm on my Instagram feed and it's going through my friends and their cats and their kids and, you know, some celebrities that I follow, and then it's like, do you have a clogged toilet? It's a little jarring. It's a little strange. So SEO is going to be more effective for that, unless you're, again, using it for educational purposes. So okay, if you want to say, hey, you know, 3 things that you probably don't know that you're wasting water unknowingly. Interesting. I'd probably click on that because it's going to educate me. So you're not selling me something. You can also do a quick coupon. So say, you know, 50% off of this, or come in free for a free appetizer. So you can use that effectively, but too many times I see with people going after social media is they're posting pictures of their staff or their team, and the only people who are liking it, I know this is so, it's because I love you guys and I'm so honest with you, but the only people who like it are your friends and your family. No random person is like, I'm going to like that picture of that staff in the office, right? Like, they're just not going to do it, right? So what value are you providing? So there's this 9-to-1 principle that marketers often provide is what is the 9 pieces of value I'm giving someone before I ask them to do the one thing? And most people on social media, it's the 1-to-1, like, hey, nice to meet you, please buy my stuff. Whoa, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want from me, right? So how are you providing that value? It's the same thing for recruiting. What kind of value are you providing? Think about what it would look like if you as a company were known as a great resource to prepare people for a job. What if you had a checklist, 7 things that every new intern needs to know on their first job, and it was linked to your website and then a link to your internship opportunities? I mean, there's so many different ways that you can put yourself in the head of the person you're trying to target and say, this is the value that I know that you need, and here's how I'm going to provide that value to you. Because again, we will buy from you, but we won't buy from you unless we like you. We won't like you unless we trust you. So how do you build that trust quickly? And that's going to be the investment side of things. Now, Snapchat is one of those really loosey-goosey kind of platforms where it's very difficult to do effective marketing on. A group who's done it incredibly well, I think textbook, is ESPN. So ESPN, Snapchat, iHeartRadio has a really great Snapchat presence, and they've done a really good job of doing everything from having their own filters to having live events on Snapchat. They're very interactive. Now, part of that is the nature of the industry. There's breaking news. You want to know what's going on. There's a celebrity factor. It's fast paced. It's communal. It's fun. It's going to be a little different if you're a plumber wanting to go after Snapchat. I wouldn't advise you doing that because that's not why people are on Snapchat. They moved away from things like Facebook and Instagram to Snapchat so that they can follow other people, but there's more privacy. And we're going to see that now with social media. I think that there's this bell curve where it was kind of everyone is my friend, and now it's very few people are my friend. So we're seeing this kind of curve go between kind of the mass exposure to now you're invited in based off of whether I know you and whether or not I like you. So recap, provide value, make it experience heavy, look at micro celebrities who can help spread your brand, and be careful and specific about what social media platform that you are using and why. So I want to make sure to encourage you guys to go into the chat bar and see if you have any questions you specifically want me to answer. Now, I do have a poll that asks you what the #1 challenge you have in going after millennials are, and I'd love to be able to answer your questions. Because one of my favorite things to do on these live webinars, just like anytime I speak or provide executive briefs or any of the trainings that we do, now we have trainers across the country. Like I mentioned, Jim is one of them. We have a certification program if anyone's interested in that. You actually get certified with us to be the millennial expert in your space, whether you're a trainer or you're an HR professional or you're a manager or marketer. We want to help you get the resources that you need to be that expert, using the resources that we've been able to aggregate and accumulate and prove with our best practices. So if you're interested in learning more about our certification program, we do ongoing training and cohorts starting in the next couple of weeks. Would love to be able to chat with you guys more about that. But if you have any questions, send it over to the chat bar. I will make sure to be looking at the chat bar as I continue on in our discussion. So, all right, we already did the recap. Now getting into some very great examples of companies that are killing it, doing so well when it comes to marketing and recruiting millennials. So one of my perfect kind of go-to examples is Sixt Rent-A-Car, Sixt, Rent-A-Car. I love them. I am such a super fan of Sixt, and not just because I like their product, but I love the approach. They're disrupting an industry. So Sixt Rent-A-Car is maybe a few years old, and they have really been able to very aggressively get to the top. Now, what I like about them, okay, they're very experience driven. So they know that their customer is someone who's probably going to be younger than 35, someone who's maybe traveling for business or traveling out with friends. And so they want it to be an experience. So as soon as you get your reservation, you get a text saying, here's your reservation, here's all the information that you need. So it's on your phone. Everything is mobile. We all know that if your site is not mobile, you are missing the millennial generation, because I'm not on my laptop looking stuff up. I'm standing in line somewhere and I'm going to do research on your company. So make it mobile. And don't just get an app just to get an app. I work with companies all the time. They're like, we have an app. Be honest with yourself. How many apps do you have on your phone? Maybe 20, if that. And usually they're the apps that you use every day. You're tracking your food, or you're tracking your steps, or you have Angry Birds or whatever, right? There are things that you use constantly. If you create an app just to create an app, you're wasting a lot of time unless it's providing value to someone every single day. So I don't really need a plumbing app. It's not going to change my life. I'm not going to download it. I'm not going to keep it. Over 95% of the app store is never downloaded. So be careful about what kind of app that you're going to build. So sixth, they probably have an app. I've never downloaded it. My point exactly. They send me a notification. Then I get there. As soon as you walk in, it is a great experience. So it's great lighting. Lighting makes all the difference. If anyone has flown Delta versus Virgin, you're amazed at just how some uplighting changes the whole experience. So everything is brightly lit. There are video kind of things going all around. It's not set up in a traditional kind of, you stand and there's one counter. There are these mini individual counters. They have great coffee. They're playing like fun, happy, upbeat music. They'll bring you like this little Nespresso. Everyone's dressed very professionally, but very modern. And the whole experience is so quick and easy. They text you halfway through your reservation to see how things are going, to provide feedback. It's the little things that really set yourself apart in the marketing side of it. Now, why I think that they've done so well is because they've empowered people like me to have a great user experience that I then want to share with my friends. So they don't have the celebrities that are going through and saying, hey, I use Sixt. They're providing something that I, as a brand ambassador, want to share with my friends. And I want to have that same experience as I look like a great person, right? We all like that. Is, oh, try this restaurant. And you send your friend to your favorite restaurant and they come back to you, oh my goodness, that was the best, steak I've ever had. It feels good knowing that you were that referral. Same thing happens when it comes to millennials. Empower them, whether you are looking to recruit someone to come work for you. Consider who on your team you can provide them with a great story, a great experience for them to then share with the rest of their team, or how you're going to be recruiting millennial consumers and customers right now with a great experience that they're then going to share with their friends. I say it all the time. Millennials will be saying something about you to their friends and to their family. You have 100% control over determining what that something is. So consider what it is that you're providing and how you're able to package it. That's where your story comes in. Story is so powerful because it's what differentiates yourself from every other person. No one can replace your story. No one can argue with your story. Your story of why you work at the organization, what kind of product you guys develop, why the organization or the company was started. Those stories are so powerful. It's such a primal instinct for us to be attracted to stories because that's how we learned languages. That's how we learned religion. That's how we learned folklore. This idea of story is just so ingrained in us. And organizations do such a poor job internally providing stories for us to share and get excited about and get buy-in to, and do a terrible job externally with stories. They may say, oh, look at this great rebrand that we did, but how does that reflect our story? Is that something that someone can say, hey, here's a story, put it in your hand and share it with someone else? Because that's what an effective story is it something I can put in my hand and hand to someone and have them take it and share it with someone else. So do a thought exercise with your team after this webinar, giving you guys some homework. Probably didn't expect that, but get together with the rest of your team and say, what's our story? What's the most compelling story that we have? So that I can take this and I can share it with someone else. Most organizations, most companies, even most products, I'm attracted to have a great story. I'm willing to invest more in something if I know that it has a great story. I'm willing to drive farther. I'm willing to tell other people about my experience because I know the story. So I might go somewhere and like a place my husband and I love is District Taco in the Washington, D.C. area. Being a California girl, it was very difficult moving to D.C. So there's no good Mexican food. So we found District Taco. And I had read some story about how the founder had come over from Mexico and he was working, I think he was washing dishes and sending money back. And he opened up this kind of like hot dog type stand and was selling Mexican food there. And fast forward 5 years, now he actually has a storefront where his little hot dog stand was. And I love the food. It's incredible. But I love the story too. And whenever people are in from out of town, I take them there because sure, it's chips and salsa. It's really good chips and salsa. But the story is powerful. It's this American dream. And I feel like I have a personal stake in helping District Taco get more exposure because I know the story. Maybe you don't have that rags to riches. Maybe you have, another kind of story that is just as compelling, but it's yours. So write out what that story is, everything from why someone should work for you to why someone should buy your product over the competition. We are entering into an ever increasing, ever competitive market where I can buy your product on Amazon and it'll be here tomorrow. But why should I go to your website, invest in you, talk to you, give you my credit card information and not Amazon? So what kind of experience are you going to provide for me that I can't get? Because many people come to me, they're like, oh, we can't compete with Amazon. The experience Amazon provides you is convenience. I know what I'm going to get. It's one-click shopping. Everything, I know what I'm going to be prepared, like what I'm going to get into. But what is it about your experience that I'm going to love, that I'm going to crave? Because I'll spend more on a product. And I just bought a product from the UK and it took a week and a half to get here. But the packaging, the experience, everything about me purchasing this product was twice as much as what I would pay here in the US, but it was worth it because not only was it a great experience, this particular product, what it says about me, I was like, this is great. I want to share it with the world. And so I've shared it on my social media. If you guys are friends with me on Facebook, you probably know what I'm talking about. I'm all about, if I have something great, I want to share it. A really great group to go after, little known tip, is millennial moms. Millennial moms are a really great demographic if you're looking to do any sort of marketing. So 90% or so of millennial moms share a review about a product or service on social media at least once a week. So as they're experiencing something, they want to share it with their followers instantly. It's, hey, I'm looking out for you. Hey, this is my favorite this is my favorite that. Have you thought about this? Can I get your opinion on that? If you see social media, a lot of it is that interactive, hey, can I get your opinion? And it's a really effective way to get people on board. So how are you empowering people? Again, it's like that micro celebrity. Sure, it could be just a millennial mom with 2 kids, but she has more influence than a marketing team that you just hired because she has people who trust her, who listen to her. So I want to share with you a couple of other good companies that you can start modeling after on the marketing side of things. I've seen organizations do a really good job of looking to recruit millennials. So say an association. Associations are really having a hard time with millennials. Millennials don't join. We don't join groups. We don't join political parties. We're very independent. But we see millennials willing to join when it comes to a cause-oriented group. So the One campaign is a great example. So it's an international campaign. Bono is a part of it. So they have these celebrity factors. But what is so effective, because I've researched them and done a case study on them actually, was that this group empowers people to become the ambassadors. So sure, they have the celebrity ambassadors, but they equip people in each community to do the same thing. So it's this kind of upside down leadership model that, yes, they have the core group, but they empower people to be themselves, to take ownership, to personalize it, to think of their own campaigns, to think of their own events. Whereas most organizations are saying, you need to go through this proper protocol to use our materials. They're saying, here's our stuff, report back, tag us, etc. And they're keeping in contact with people that way. Another really great example is something like Blue Apron. So we know that that things in boxes are very popular to millennials. For those of us who don't like mail, it is a little ironic how many trees that we kill for all the boxes that we get sent to us via Amazon, etc. So Blue Apron has done a great job. There are many other, I think like HelloFresh, there are maybe 10 or so different companies that provide you kind of little meal kits. But Blue Apron's a great example where things are delivered to you like a subscription. So subscription models are really great, where I can buy into, maybe I can't purchase your whole product, but I can purchase a subscription. Netflix is the same thing. So if you're selling a product and maybe it's too expensive for someone to buy all at once, what kind of subscription can you provide and can you present? The same thing is with information. What kind of subscription to information can you start providing and presenting to millennials that are incredibly value-based so people get excited about it? So, okay, I just ran through it all. I was running. You see all the birds that are flying around me, waiting for one to hit me. So, okay, I want to now open it up for Q&A. If you have a question, write it down in the chat box next to you. And let me see. No one has responded to my Q&A link because I've answered all of your questions. So what is a specific question? I want to take on one of you guys and answer your question specifically, and then actually run through what I would do as a marketing campaign, a recruitment campaign. You are getting free advice here. So if you have a specific challenge that you would like me to go after, I'd love to be able to answer it, because I know sometimes it's easy for you to say, oh, that's great for you, Gabrielle, but you don't know about my industry, or you don't know about what it's like to recruit in my neck of the woods, or, you know, with my particular demographic. And they're very key. Everything I was sharing with you, these are principles. The customization comes in the coaching. The customization comes in the application and the testing and the tracking. And that's one of my favorite things whenever I'm putting together a campaign with a client, is how do you take the principles that we're talking about and apply it in a way that makes sense for you, that we start to track it. So whether we're putting together an email campaign or a text campaign or a social media campaign, how are you testing and tracking throughout that process to make sure that you're responding well? So Tracy said that one of her biggest challenges is in hiring salespeople. So sales training is one of the biggest challenges we're seeing with many clients when it comes to hiring and keeping millennials, which makes sense. Many sales teams are very cold call based. It's very cutthroat. It's very competitive. And millennials are much more relationship driven. And I was going to say we hate cold calls, but I think everyone kind of hates cold calls. We're not as competitive with other people. We're more competitive with ourselves. So if you're seeing that turnover in your sales team, focus more on setting personal goals and achieving those rather than us versus them. I would also say when it comes to the hiring side of it, selling things like lifestyle, flexibility, benefits, that is going to go a long way with millennials as well, where we see millennials who are excited about sales. They also really want to be trained for the job. So of course you're going to train people, but you have to iterate and reiterate how you will be training them, because they're feeling intimidated. They may come from a sales background or they may not come from a sales background, and they're wanting to know, are you going to help me be successful? So share with them in the hiring and recruiting process exactly how you train them so that they feel very confident that you have their back, and they're not just going to walk in and say, hey, you know, here's good luck. Here's a phone. Go sell things. Chase was saying, biggest challenge is reaching out to millennials about buying insurance. Chase, certainly one of the biggest challenges in that is working in industries that have low education levels regarding millennials. So you've got to educate millennials first. I did a focus group for a credit union a couple years ago. It was really interesting because millennials don't go into banks, obviously. But what we found was they would if there was an education component. So they said, I'm terrified of asking for help, but I'm really desperate for more information about money. So how are you able to educate this next demographic? So everything from blogs to micro videos, and micro videos are less than 3 minutes where you're talking about a particular topic, where you're interviewing people. And video production is really two sides. There's like the Chewbacca mom, right, who's in her car. And then there's the very, very polished, iPhone video where it's an all white background. So, and there's really not anywhere in between. If it's in between, it feels a little, that's why I'm in my backyard, right? Like we're just hanging out. So there's really two different approaches to video production. So be careful about what that looks like, but consider what kind of materials and I'm not talking about printed materials. I'm even hesitant to say the word blog because millennials don't read blogs, but do like listicles. How are you providing more information? Because you're going to have to educate a generation that is really desperate for context for how to make better decisions. All right, Stephanie says she's an HVAC company that pays for trade schools for the employee. We're having trouble keeping employees to get through that training. Oh my goodness, yes. So Stephanie, we are doing right now a national survey of millennials in the trades, and we're working with trade schools. And if that particular trade school is interested in participating, we'd love to be able to survey them for free. But we're surveying millennials and their managers to determine why millennials, particularly in the trades, but we're going to start doing other industries as well, are or are not attracted to a particular industry. So the challenge really does come into what they know what they're going to be getting at the end. So it used to be in the trades, for example, where you'd be an apprentice, and that was kind of your experience, got your feet wet, and then you'd be at said company. We're finding that in the early parts of the industry kind of training, the apprenticeship, they're wanting to have more experience. They're wanting to know, what is it really going to be like? So having people from whatever company come in and talk to the trade school, we've seen to be very effective. Doing mini apprenticeship programs where there's more accountability, because once you get into an apprenticeship program, retention tends to be very high because you have someone who's checking in with you, someone that you're following around, someone who's essentially mentoring you. So if you can kind of create that and create a cohort, so as much accountability as you can provide to each other, not to the company. Because that's the big challenge with millennials, is we're not necessarily loyal to a company, we're loyal to the people who work there. So how can you get them to feel loyal to your organization without just feeling loyal to your company? So who is it that the people that you're trying to get after? So Jason wants to know, any advice on recruiting millennials to work in the trades? I love it. I love me some people in the trades, skilled workforce. I'm all about it. And I'm super passionate about making sure that the future of skilled trades is strong, and that, I mean, my dad owns a roofing company, and I grew up all around that. So I'm super passionate about it. So I would say specifically, Jason, for you, and as well to answer Stephanie's question, regarding recruiting, again, it's going to come back to education. I would create mini videos if I were looking to recruit millennials. I would create and put them on YouTube, educating people about what those opportunities look like, day in the life of a tech, pros, cons, etc. And I would probably create 10 to 15 of them where I'm educating people, and it's also kind of entertaining. It's almost like a vlog. I would do that. I love relationships with trade schools. Stephanie, I'm glad you guys are doing that. I think that's incredibly effective because everything is relationship based. So the more relationships you can provide, the better. I would also do kind of mini orientations about your company before you even get to recruit someone. So do like a mini, they're calling them culture interviews. You can do them with a small video team to actually talk about what life is like in your company and recruit people that way. Because we're starting to get, we've collected kind of the first maybe 10th of our trade survey, and we found that the number one reason that millennials are saying that they think about quitting is the money. Of course, everyone wants more money, but the number one reason that they stay is the company. So they really do care about who it is that they're working for and what brand they represent. So what about working for your company is going to be better or different? And many millennials going into the trades, when we were asking them why they chose that particular industry, because focus groups are always really powerful. It's great to learn why people are in the position that they're in. What we found is that these millennials are saying they either fell into it, it was suggested by a friend, or they knew someone, like their family was in it. So it was all relationship based. So it's not something that they necessarily would have thought of, but something they fell into. So again, recruiting from the good people that you have to recruit the good people that they know and incentivize them with something. I mean, I've done everything from, 3 days of vacation to $500 gift cards, etc. So find unique ways for you to be able to recruit people from the great people that you know. All right. Tracy's got another question. When creating a micro video, does it need to be super polished, reserved value, and hanging out in the backyard format? Yeah, absolutely. So it's that it depends on what approach you're wanting to go after and what kind of millennial you want to work with. So if I was working with a high level, one of my Fortune 500 clients, I wouldn't be doing a webinar in the backyard, right? I would be in my studio with my lights and my microphone and, everything. But this is much more us hanging out, which love hanging out with you guys. So it's what kind of audience are you going after? What kind of feel are you going after? So it really is one of the two. Who do you want to be in the room and how do you want to be educating them? I think for most recruitment videos, doing kind of the, walk through my life, this is what it's like, will be very effective. That works for many marketing materials as well. Sometimes you do want a more polished approach. I've run marketing campaigns for everything from MLM products to services to consulting, and using everything from, me hanging out in my kitchen to, the more polished, here's the actual product. And both of them do very well, but you have to know who your audience is. So, all right. I have loved hanging out with you guys. As I mentioned before, if you want any more information about me doing a Facebook ads webinar, let me know in the side. I'm not going to do it unless you guys want me to do it, which is fine. Let me know in the comment box if you would like that. And we are starting to release more information. In the beginning of the new year, we're going to be doing a new set of cohorts. So we do a cohort of 10 to 15 people who are interested in being coached by myself and my husband, who has a Facebook ads agency, on how to market to millennials. So if you're interested in getting more information about that, I'll send more information at the end of this webinar. It's an application process because we only take about 10 to 15 people per cohort. So I'll share with you more information about what that group coaching, monthly coaching with us looks like, what some of the results that we've been able to have with some of the people we've coached. And obviously we have a ton of fun doing it. So working with you and your team to recruit or market millennials is what we absolutely love to do. So thanks for hanging out, guys. Looking forward to following up with you guys soon. And yeah, have a great rest of the day. I'm going to enjoy this beautiful day in Northern California. Bye, guys.